Yo, and hello, everybody. Mike and Mike here for Hobby Think Tank this week. How you doing, man?
Doing great. We've got baseball postseason, basketball's just about to start, football's going. How could it get any better? Some would say, well, you forgot hockey. No, I didn't.
well, uh, you guys don't know this, but we spend a lot of time debating what to talk about. We had three potential subjects today. We had the conflict in Israel. We had the Speaker of the House trying to get resolved and who was going to be that, or we're going to talk about postseason baseball. What do you think people want to hear about on this channel?
I would think that people would riot if we started talking about either of those other topics.
So let's just talk about postseason baseball. And I think a twist on this and kind of a think tank thing is everybody's looking for an edge, right? When they're buying cards, and you go to the postseason, who's going to make a name for themselves? Who's going to, become a legend for that franchise? And maybe what that really means is, I think there's a distinct difference between becoming a legend and making a name for yourself in the postseason for a team and becoming more hobby relevant. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Absolutely. 100% agree.
So just because you do well in the postseason, a la Steven Strasburg a couple years ago,
hmm
right? And what he did, I don't think that changed his hobby relevancy being World Series MVP versus what Juan Soto did in that postseason that I think did increase his, spotlight to collectors. It's interesting in the same postseason, two players, outstanding performances, different results in the hobby. Why is that?
Well, one of them's a pitcher, and they don't have the same cachet in the hobby. And one of them is probably that has a greater likelihood of becoming a Hall of Famer than Strasburg does.
What if Strasburg was a rookie when he did what he did?
It would definitely have had a bigger impact, but also he's a pitcher, and nobody except me likes pitchers for some reason.
I like pitchers. I think you need one. You need them to perform well to be
Yeah.
a good baseball team.
Yeah, I've always collected pitchers. So pitchers have always been my favorite, so it surprises me. It will always surprise me that pitchers aren't that collectible in the hobby to most people.
Well, by the time this airs, or when we're recording this, there are 8 teams still left in the playoffs. And I think that's a good sample size. Who knows by the time this airs on, if you're watching this on release day on Thursday, how many teams will be left? Hopefully, the Orioles will not be left, much to Danny Black's chagrin. But sorry, Danny. Uh,
Or Danny.
Poor Danny. Poor Orioles fans. But we'll see. But I think even if whatever teams get eliminated at this point, we can still look at players that might make it, that might have a different hobby outlook after this postseason than before. It's kind of how I'm looking at it. And I don't think players can really hurt themselves in the postseason. I think they can only help themselves. Does that make sense? Like if you have a crappy postseason, I don't know that that negatively affects the cards as much as a great postseason can help your cards.
Well, it depends. So Mookie Betts has gone 3 for his last 39 in the postseason, and I don't think a lot of people in the hobby are really noticing because he's a hitter and he's you don't notice it as much as Clayton Kershaw going 1/3 of an inning, giving up 6 runs, and already having the reputation as a postseason bust.
So let's just do Dodgers then, because we'll go through each of the 8 teams and try to do it in 30 minutes or less here. Kershaw, reputation damaged. Is he tarnished now?
I don't think he should be. I don't think his postseason stats are really that terrible. I think his postseason WHIP is 1.11 for his career. His ERA is 4.5, which obviously is bad for a guy whose career ERA is probably 2 runs lower than that. But it's still not terrible. You're pitching against the best hitters he had a terrible, terrible, terrible outing, and he's had other terrible outings in the postseason. But I don't know why. You know what? Let people stop buying his cards because I will be glad to buy his rookie cards at a lower price in the next month or two.
Well, you can take. Let's take a guy. I'll take two guys, three actually, that I would say their postseason performances made them Hall of Fame worthy, whereas their regular season career might not have. Roy Halladay, Curt Schilling, who I still think should be absolutely a Hall of Famer, no question.
He's a borderline Hall of Famer in the regular season, which is close. I mean, he's really close regular season, greatest strikeouts to walk ratio of all time. But his postseason career puts him way into the Hall of Fame, no doubter.
Right. And Jack Morris. I hate to use your buddy Jack Morris, but without Jack Morris's '87 Twins, and the Blue Jays, and some,
yeah.
I think that put him, the Tigers, right, in '84. He was part of some great teams, led the staff to World Series victory. Look, Frank Viola wasn't the leader of the '87 Twin staff. It's Jack Morris. Come on.
Was Jack Morris on the '87 Twins?
Yeah. Now you love Jack Morris. You hate him, now you love him. No, but three guys that definitely through their postseason exploits took the way you view the lens that you view their career through to another level. And again, I think it can really enhance more than it can detract. Kershaw's still a first ballot Hall of Famer. He could get shelled in his next outing in the postseason, and no one will care.
Is it bad etiquette to correct the host on his own show?
Sure. Well, we're co-hosts, so technically we can correct each other.
Jack Morris is on the Tigers in '87. You're thinking of '91.
91. Sorry.
Amazing Game 7 performance. No doubt.
I apologize.
Career-changing, career-defining performance from Jack Morris. I remember watching that. They kept showing the close-up of his face, and he had his cheek was full of chew or whatever it is, dip. I don't know.
Okay, so at least I was right team, Twins, right?
Twins, yes.
91. And then I think it was on the 93 Blue Jays squad.
Didn't pitch in the World Series, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Point being, he had some postseason performances that upped his
92 World Series. He did pitch in. He went 0-2 with a 8.44 ERA. But this is my problem with Jack Morris. We should move on because we're gonna get. First of all, look, I'm okay with Jack Morris being in the Hall of Fame. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. He's perfectly fine in the Hall of Fame. Jack Morris was a great pitcher for a long time.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Are there any youngsters on the Dodgers that could enhance their hobby profile?
Any youngsters on the Dodgers? I'm trying to think. I took some notes of guys that I think are going to go up, but I didn't have a Dodger on there.
I think Betts I think he could show up in a big way for the rest of the series, maybe bring the Dodgers back. As we're recording this, they're down 0-2. That would be pretty epic and good for his hobby presence, but he's already well established within the hobby. So it's hard unless you're younger. I don't think an older player gets more hobby relevant, which is a shame, by the way. I think that's completely backwards, the way the hobby thinks versus the way that baseball fans think.
Right. It speaks to the prospecting aspect of baseball card collecting. You think because a guy, look at Jeremy Pena, for instance. He had an amazing World Series MVP, by the way, University of Maine. And so then everybody went out and spent tons of money on his cards. And then he wasn't that good in the regular season the next year.
Okay, so let's go to the Dodgers the team that's playing the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks. Obviously, Corbin Carroll sticks out. A great rookie season, amazing postseason thus far. I think he's elevating himself in the hobby through this.
No question about it. He has the chance to go down as a legendary rookie year, one of the greatest between regular season and postseason, one of the best rookie years of all time.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's see how the rest of the postseason plays out. But so far, he's definitely a guy that can increase his hobby presence, spotlight through the postseason. And anybody else on the Diamondbacks that stands out to you?
Not that I can think of. Any for you?
Evan Longoria. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like Evan Longoria because he's a fellow collector. So that he collects cards. So that
great career there too.
Yeah, good career. Good career. I don't know that. What, rookie of the year? Was he rookie of the year? Yeah.
Yeah, so. I mean, he was a good player for a long time.
Good player. Not Hall of Fame worthy.
No.
And this postseason would not change that for me. He could hit a home run in every game, and I still wouldn't say that. Okay. So nobody else on the Diamondbacks. Let's stay in the National League. We've got Phillies and the Braves.
Yeah. So Bryce Harper, I think he's already kind of a legend, probably a Hall of Famer, but his play is. I'm close with a hardcore Phillies fan, and they love the play that Harper made last night. Like, he can't do any wrong with Phillies fans. He got doubled off to end the game, and they loved it.
Well, he was being aggressive to try to, if the ball was dropped, he was going to score.
Yes.
It was a do or die play, right? It was, you're either hero or goat. And the guy, Harris makes an amazing catch in center field. What do? You tip your hat to the guy and say, good play. And he almost made it back. If Riley wouldn't have been on his horse and backing up the play, it reminds me of the Jeter play, back in the Jeter A's when he was trailing the play, the throw overthrew everybody. Jeter was there, did the flip, the Jeter flip play. I digress. So Harper he can just establish himself more deeply in the Hall of Fame conversation by continuing to have good postseasons and putting the Phillies on his back, because there's not really, you look at that team, JT Realmuto, he hit a home run last night or the first game one. Can't remember.
It was game one.
Realmuto.
No, he hit one last night. He's there's another guy for sure. He's got put 2 home runs in this series.
Yeah. But you get, old hobby darlings. I know Rhys Hoskins hasn't played all season, but, Alec Bohm, right? Mm-hmm. There was a time when his rookie cards were popular. It's just so funny. The hype is, the reality is never worth the hype. Almost never, right? Yep. And the Phillies are a great example of that. None of their so-called amazing prospects have really panned out to be great players over time. They all have spurts, but it's funny how we're still not mentioning any pitchers. The Braves, with their slew of talent, obviously Acuna can continue to solidify his place in the hobby, right?
Yeah, I think speaking of pitchers in the Phillies, though, Zach Wheeler looks awfully good, even though he blew it in the 7th inning?
Yeah.
Last night, he looked awfully good.
We had a no-hitter into the 6th, right?
So, right.
That's pretty good against that lineup.
Yeah, 10 strikeouts.
Yeah. Braves, Michael Harris. You got Alti Albies, who I think is way underrated in the hobby for some reason.
Yep.
Matt Olson, another guy who it's people, I say Matt Olson over Acuna for MVP, and people look at me like I'm bananas.
I think Matt Olson is probably 3rd after Acuna and Betts.
Which is a shame. The dude hit,
54 home runs.
4 home runs. Drove in
150?
Yeah, I mean, something crazy. It's like, And they would say, well, that he only got to do that because Acuna was on base all the time. Okay,
Sure, but
hit
he
for
hit
that, right?
a ton of home runs.
Yeah.
I don't think he's MVP, but I also think he has a case that he's top 3.
Yeah. So you've got, but Olson's cards, I don't think even throughout this entire great season that he has, what has his rookie card done? I genuinely don't know. I would be curious to look back and go, okay, it was worth this then and worth this now. But I don't hear people clamoring for Matt Olson rookies.
No, I don't see them at card shows.
Back to the Dodgers, though, Freddie Freeman, right?
Hall of Famer.
You think?
I do.
Okay. Think he's done enough already, or he needs to do some more?
No, I think he's really, really close. If he has another great season or 2, and I know he's 33. I think he's going to get there.
Just look everything up instantly.
Yeah, he's 34, but he just turned 34 this last month.
So this was his year 33 season.
Yep.
He'll be 34 next season. Yeah, he's got 3 or 4 more good years, relatively productive years. And another under the radar Hall of Famer potential is JD Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Red Sox guy, so I love JD Martinez. I have a hard time seeing him as a Hall of Famer. Great career, but I just don't see it.
Okay. Yeah, he never had the MVP awards, or Freeman won MVP 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Or last.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
So
2 years.
Yeah, he's never had that national spotlight really to get the recognition, but sneaky potential Hall of Famer JD Martinez. Just keep an eye out on that.
Okay.
You heard it here first, if indeed he does. All right, we're through the National League. We're halfway through our time. That's perfect. Unless there's anybody else on the Braves that Strider, Spencer, nobody cares about pitchers, like you said.
Yeah, I love him. But
nobody's buying his rookie cards.
Nope.
Okay. Let's see.
We don't know anything about the Rangers, so we'll skip over them.
Yeah, they're terrible. Well, it's funny, you got obviously Evan Carter's getting all the attention in the hobby, I think. But I'm not buying into it. I'm not going to go out and buy his cards. And I'm a Rangers fan. Like, I'm not one of those guys that chases after this kind of stuff. 5 years from now, if he's still the same player, then I'll be interested in his rookie card.
Yeah, that's the way I am too, because his cards are outrageously priced right now, and he can continue at this pace, and in 5 years there'll be less. But I think Evan Carter is the real deal.
Yeah.
You can tell, in my opinion, because he gets on base a ton, and he hits for some power, and he runs. He's got everything major league teams need right now in the current modern form of baseball.
Yeah, his plate discipline is pretty impressive for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
And he's had several Topps Now cards, so that makes him immediately hobby relevant, right?
Yep.
And his rookie card won't be until 2024 Topps, so there you go.
Yeah.
All those cards now are call-up cards, which I think is the dumbest thing ever, but that's not what this hobby think tank is about.
Yeah, in his age 20 season, which was this year, he played in 23 games and walked 12 times. So he's walking in half of his games, which is crazy. He batted .306, on base percentage of .413, slugging of .645.
Yeah. And he plays good defense. The only criticism I have of Evan Carter is when he's playing left field, he plays too shallow. And I think some balls that he should have caught, like the game winner on Friday of the last weekend of the regular season against the Mariners, Crawford hits a ball to left field that I think if you're playing no doubles and you're playing deeper, he catches the ball without even breaking a stride. He can't get to it, goes over his head. Mariners win, walk off, go home. But that happened against the Orioles too already, where he's played too shallow, I think, because he thinks he's fast, and he is. But when these guys are hitting it 107 miles an hour off the bat, it's
Yeah.
it's hard. You can't run that fast to catch that ball.
Right.
So, sorry, I digress. That's just my own criticism, personal criticism. But I do think he has a good future. I think Josh Young can
Yeah.
also kind of solidify his hobby presence by having a really good postseason. It's been okay so far for him. I wouldn't call it, nobody's going, wow, look at Josh Young, but he's another young player with 2023 Topps rookie cards that is good. Seager, Simeon, Adolis Garcia, status quo for them to me, no matter how good they do.
Corey Seager put up MVP numbers in 2/3 of a season. Now, I'm saying if you were to extrapolate his season out to a full season, that's an MVP type season.
Yeah, his WAR ended up being 6.9, which would in most seasons win you the MVP unless Shohei Ohtani's pitching and hitting in the same year. Ohtani's WAR was 11 or something, and he only played, he missed the last month, right? So Ohtani's going to win MVP. Seager will finish second, most likely, I would guess. And Simeon will be probably top 5 MVP, just FYI.
Yeah.
100 RBIs out of the leadoff spot.
Yeah,
It had only
a few
been
guys
done.
did that this year. Betts and Acuna did that too.
It had only been done twice before. 3 guys did it this year. Like that's
Crazy.
That's crazy. But there's hobby presence isn't going to change with this postseason. Even if the Rangers win the World Series, Seager's already won an MVP award in the World Series and the NLCS, so nobody cares. It's kind of, unless you're a rookie, right? And then it only matters for that brief period of time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if he goes another. He's 29. If he has 4 or 5 more good seasons, his Hall of Fame case will be interesting.
For sure. And he's doing it. It's funny how the cycles are. Shortstop's not an offensive position anymore.
Right.
It was through the Garciaparra, Jeter, A-Rod, Tejada, Ripken, right? That was a big position. It's just not now. And he's the leader of that, right? He's kind of like the best offense. Like if you said, who do you want to be your shortstop? You'd pick Corey Seager right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think any team would pick Corey Seager right now. Okay. Scherzer, I think he could help he's obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer right now, but if he could somehow come back, if the Rangers continue to advance and he makes some miraculous, one-arm start at some point, or comes out of the bullpen clutch like Randy Johnson, a la the Diamondbacks, that could be pretty cool for him.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what a shame for DeGrom.
Right. He came here for this.
Yeah.
And he's not even getting to be a part of it. Like, welcome to Texas. We're in the postseason doing well. We got to be careful because as we're saying this, the Rangers could lose 3 in a row and then we're not even talking about them anymore. That would be tragic. Okay. Rangers are playing the youthful Baltimore Orioles, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, right? Those are 2 guys that could be elevating their status in the hobby and yet are both not hitting very, credit to Ranger pitching, but at this point, they're not having good postseasons 2 games in.
Hasn't Henderson done pretty well, though?
He homered in game 2 while they were down, 9-2, right? Congratulations. You hit a solo shot. Rutschman's in a pretty bad slump overall.
Yeah, he really is.
Cedric Mullins can't hit the broadside of a barn, which is good for us.
Yep.
But I'm trying to think any other players that stand out on the Orioles. I don't think so. That would be hobby relevant. It's hard to be hobby relevant. Honestly, it's so difficult.
Is Ryan Mountcastle now irrelevant?
Yes, and that's a shame. 2 years ago, he was the talk of, a lot of people loved his stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so much easier to become irrelevant than to become relevant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, count the
understand.
number of guys who have become irrelevant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be a long list, right?
yeah.
Okay, Astros Twins playing as we speak, as we were recording this.
Oh, what's the score?
Well,
Astros
Abreu hit a 3-run
Twins.
shot in the first earlier,
Uh, yeah, Yordan Alvarez continues to add to his postseason legend.
and yet his cards, nobody cares.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. He's a big, burly home run hitter, which is what the hobby loves. But I think the hobby's moving more into the Acuna guys who hit for some power and run a lot and are exciting.
Yeah, like Ellie De La Cruz or
Yeah,
yeah,
yep. But Yordan Alvarez, I think you could see a big spike. I mean, he's 2 for 3 today with a run scored. He's having another big game.
he might end up being 3 for 3. The ball he hit in the first was ruled an error, and it did not look like an error to me. And so they might change that later. But what's the score of that game?
It is 5-0 Astros.
Okay. So anybody on the what about Royce Lewis?
Yeah, he's I think his regular season cemented him as this year's one of this year's darlings of the hobby.
Right.
And he's doing great in this series. He's 0 for 2 today, which drops his batting average to 235, but his OBP is 350, his slugging 755. He's hitting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he could be helped with a continued strong postseason if that keeps going.
Yeah, Correa, had a terrible regular season, but has looked really, really good in the postseason.
Yeah. Bregman, Altuve, Jose
Too old.
Abreu. Huh?
They're too old.
Right. They can't. Their hobby story is already told in large part because again, the only way to become relevant is to be young and exciting. It's kind of a sad testimony about our hobby, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
The more we talk about this, the more I'm getting depressed about why our hobby is so stupid about some things.
Yeah. Is Altuve a Hall of Famer?
Not yet, but likely we'll get there with a couple more good
Yeah.
seasons.
Yeah.
Regardless of the trash cans and all that.
Right. I think his postseason heroics put him up there.
Yeah, he's close. All right, so that's all the teams in the postseason. I don't think who would be the one guy you would pick to have the most out of all the people we've discussed, or someone maybe even we haven't, to have the most hobby benefit from a good postseason?
Well, probably Evan Carter. Corbin Carroll, if you're talking about like a percentage increase,
Yeah,
Corbin Carroll isn't going to skyrocket that much with this amazing postseason because he was already way up there. But Evan Carter is getting noticed.
yeah, yeah. I would have said Corbin Carroll, honestly, because I still think people get stupid with, the way they drive up prices on young players that haven't done it for very long. But yeah, we're known on this show for hobby advice, investment advice. I mean that. So there's going to be a lot of people that act on what we discuss today,
Yes,
as they should.
absolutely. We know prospecting better than anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I had a point earlier and I can't remember it now, which makes me mad. But what other thoughts do you have, Mr. Hero?
um, I'm excited to see what happens with the postseason the rest of the way.
Who wins it
I'm
from here?
Atlanta. I've been picking Atlanta since probably May. So I remember saying on a live stream in May, nobody's going to beat Tampa Bay. And one of my subscribers said, "Watch out for Atlanta." And I was like, "Okay, I can see that." And then I kept thinking Tampa Bay for a little while, but then quickly, probably in June, switched over to Atlanta.
So, the Vegas is adjusting odds of winning the World Series literally daily as
Oh, yeah.
each game unfolds. Do you know who the current favorite is to win the World Series?
Texas?
The Texas Rangers.
I know the Orioles have the lowest chance of winning, right? According
They
to
do.
Vegas.
Yeah. So that's kind of crazy. And
Doesn't that bother you?
yes, very, very much. I don't want to be the favorite.
I remember, I think it was 2011, Sports Illustrated did a big cover story about how the Red Sox were going to set the record for most wins in a season or something crazy like that before the season. And I was so mad. Like, what? No, don't do this to my team. And they
They did not.
exploded. They imploded in September. No, they were amazing all the way up until September. And then they had that Terry Francona thing, the clubhouse. They were eating wings and drinking beer in the club. I don't remember all the details. But yeah, it was bad.
Well, if Vegas is pretty smart, but I would love to see obviously the Rangers win the World Series. But as I discussed on a video I did on Baseball Collector, being a fan just sucks because you're always perpetually disappointed, and even when you're elated, your team wins a championship. It's very short lived, and then you have to go, run through the grinder again emotionally. I'm just not going to be a sports fan anymore. I've decided.
Smart. You could win the World Series this year, and you could win the Super Bowl with Dallas. You're not going to win the NBA championship with that team, I don't think.
Well, if you watch the game Sunday night against the 49ers, we ain't winning the Super Bowl either.
Yeah, I know. Brock Purdy looks pretty good.
God, that team, the Niners are just everywhere. I mean, they're just good. They're really, really good. Well coached, great players, both sides of the ball. Good luck to anyone who has to play the 49ers. And they're undefeated, I guess. So them and the Eagles are still undefeated. But this is not a football show. But any other final thoughts before we get out of here?
I don't think so.
Would love to hear what you guys think down below, who you think could make an impact, change their hobby, story a little bit, make themselves more hobby relevant through this postseason. Appreciate you guys watching. As always, we'll catch you next week for another episode of Hobby Think Tank. Keep collecting.